think we can start. So let's move on and start this meeting. Welcome to everyone. My name is Federico Aureli and I work in positive technologies since 2016. I'm member of expert and delivery team, but considering that in pair everything goes better, today I'm glad to be here with my colleague Milan. Ciao Milan.
Ciao Fede. I agree with you. Let me introduce myself. It's been my second season in PT, but I gained a lot of experience of messaging and security in my previous life. I hope I will learn something new today. So this is us. Indeed, more you can find in our private LinkedIn accounts if you want.
And of course, we are really proud to work for this great company. Let's move to the agenda.
Yeah, here comes the agenda for today. Let me remind you that anytime you feel bored, you might really seek for any other fancy webinars on our PT YouTube channel. From all, I can recommend the one about 5G and calling Houston. This is my favorite one, an English guy trying to convince people living in London to not destroy newly installed 5G antennas.
Good point for everyone on this call. 5G antennas has nothing to do with coronavirus or Brexit, really.
Yeah. First of all, a little about us. PT is a company which puts the research on the center of all its activities. And this is the key differentiator. All we get from research is further propagated into our product and service portfolio.
Yes, and researching vulnerabilities on different environments, from more standard ones like IT web application to more niche one like telecom, Internet of Things, industrial environments, and banking and payment system. We also actively participate to regular regulatory bodies like GSMA.
Yes, that's true. And as you can see, I think I will repeat myself, we are researchers. And if you are interested in any of our recent papers, you can see the list here, go and visit our web pages, positive-.com.
And Milan, if I'm not wrong, this year we have released the SS7 diameter and GTP papers.
You remember it correctly, Fede.
So let's see at this picture about what an hacker can do using an SS7 flow. Consider that SS7 is used by over 800 global telecom, and it's insecure because when it was created, it has no security in its design. And today, it can still be easily compromised by an attacker.
Yeah, looking at the slide, it looks like hackers can do almost everything.
You are right. This is a pretty large perimeter of what can be done through the SS7 neighbor. But it's not only limited to SS7. The other signaling guys are vulnerable in the same way.
Oh, this is a scary slide, I would say.
Yeah, but this is the reality.
If what takes 3 hours to recover DOS attack?
We will see these deeper in next slides, but you know better than me that this is an average time based on our experience. Sometimes processes make the recovery phase even more challenging.
Okay. Here, let me one more time touch 5G antennas in UK. This was the first step of every MNO I know on the transformation way. They build up a new radio and kept the existing EPC. But beside, they probably already have virtualized 5G core.
So if I well understand, even with 5G radio access network, you still communicate on 4G or 3G to your roaming partner.
Yeah, that's correct. You can also add IPX providers into this significant group.
I see. I see. But in case of 5G standalone core, the story changes and EPC is used for partners and the internet.
Yeah, even LTE only networks using the diameter protocol instead of SS7 or even next generation 5G networks must interconnect with previous generation networks.
Yes, and for this reason, all partners or emerging MNO using SS7 needs to be supported. This is the so-called fallback, right?
Or better, backward compatibility.
And Milan, what about roaming? So this is the ideal world where everyone uses 5G.
What's this, Fede? Better to simplify it.
Yeah, let's have a zoom on this.
Yeah, in the ideal world, everyone uses SEPP, and that time we are happy and simply we can go home.
Sorry, but you know, since March, I work constantly from home and you forget coronavirus.
Are you right? Anyway, this is a nice vision. Everyone is happy, but fallback or backward compatibility makes this more complicated.
And do you think that SAPP will take a long time to be adopted by all roaming partners?
Unfortunately, I think so. SEPP will properly work only in case where both parties adopt 5G technology. So we'll need a lot of time before we see such communication scheme really fully working.
Okay, but before to go so ahead, let's talk about the G evolution.
Yeah, sure. As you can see, everything started by SS7, Big Bang. It's been almost 3 decades, and SS7 is still worth to consider.
So we still need to count with SS7. Now let's see which is the market penetration of each of these technology, and
Yeah.
this might be very interesting.
Because I didn't expect this. Look at SS7 as a set of protocols governing the exchange of signaling messages on control plane, which is it.
Yeah, you know, the issue with the SS7 is that it's no longer isolated as it was when implemented. So it can be accessed by both legitimate operators and by illegitimate attackers. And this is still true.
You could think that everything is going to finish with the progressive implementation of 5G, but it's not true entirely. Until at least 2025, SS7 will continue a significant player, but I suppose its vulnerabilities have been mitigating during all this time.
So about your thinking and your suppose it's, can you see any significant progress within last 3 years?
Looking at this picture, progress maybe, but if significant, hard to say.
Yes, here as you can see in our 2018 analysis of SS7 vulnerabilities, we noted a gradual security improvement in SS7 network.
Yeah. Operators still taking steps to improve security, but it seems they are doing it without a systematic approach which is needed to compensate for those flaws.
You are right. And so long as this remains the case, there will be gaps in security that can be exploited by attackers. Let's have a look to diameter.
But here, please don't ask me whether I see any improvement here.
Don't worry, I won't. As everyone see here, the last 2 years have brought almost no improvement in the security of diameter network. All tested networks were vulnerable to denial of service attacks, and this pose a direct threat even to IoT devices.
Yeah. Non-standalone 5G means subscribers continuing on the advantages of 5G, including improved security, but these are still susceptible to 4G threats.
And do you know why we didn't see the expected improvements?
I can imagine something related to security feature implementation.
Yes, you are right, but it's not only limited to this. These security features, even when installed and implemented, are not always correctly configured, and this creates security gaps. The increased number of successful attacks in 2019 was due to both general lack of traffic filtering as well security gaps that allowed attackers to bypass such systems. In almost half of the network study, configuration error in equipment at network boundaries allowed illegitimate requests to bypass.
Exactly. Just as an example for the audience, SMS home routing, which is used to guarantee the proper routing of terminating messages, even if strictly speaking is not a security feature. Its use does prevent some attacks aimed at disclosing subscriber information and operator network configurations. But it's not rightly, if it is not rightly implemented and maintained, you can have a false sense of your security.
Regarding GTP, one of the latest protocol introduced, as we said, as we've seen in the previous slide, it has been introduced in 2001, but it seems to suffer almost the same security issues.
Yes, Fede, you're right. Based on our researchers on the field, even GTP can be a threat vector. DOS and fraud are still possible, and the main flaw is that the user actual location is not checked. And this is responsible for half of successful attacks.
Really impressive. I suggest to our audience to visit our website and download the full research. A lot of interesting stuff there. So Milan, you need more?
Only if you show me the positive numbers.
You know, all my numbers are positive.
That's good. I see positive numbers, but I miss here the year.
All statistics that we are going to show now are average numbers from our security assessment from years 2018 and 2019.
Let me ask a question, Fede. How many assessments we made last year?
We performed 76 security assessments.
That's not bad. This is then the representative sample.
Yes, and as you can see in these delicious donuts, only 25% of firewall and more than half SMS home routing solution were able to secure the network.
Impressive. So it's not only important to have the right equipment, but it's more important to configure it properly and maintain it up and keep it up to date. So this is really important, I guess.
Yes, and in the past 2 years, the number of networks in which an attacker can track a subscriber location is growing, as you can see in these statistics. SS7 filters can be bypassed due to configuration issues, outdated DB, and so on.
Does it mean that attackers can make changes in a subscriber's profile that allow them to receive the information about the subscriber's location every time the subscriber makes a call?
Yes, it does. And the ability for attackers to track a subscriber location is directly related to a fundamental flaw in SS7 architecture. In some cases, it's impossible to establish whether a subscriber is affiliated with the network from which a signaling message is originated.
And if I understand this correctly, to prevent attacks, it is essential that filtering is correctly configured on the end user equipment and at network boundaries. In addition, signaling messages must be constantly monitored and analyzed.
Yeah, Milan, you learn really quickly, but it's not all.
Yet another disclosure, I see.
Yes, exactly. Operators are well informed about these problems, these issues, and they are taking protective measures to prevent such kind of disclosures. Just consider that most methods used to disclose IMSI, the International Mobile Subscriber Identity, require some signaling messages that should not even come from external network. So it's not particularly hard to block such kind of attacks.
So generally, an attacker must know a subscriber's IMSI as well as the network equipment addresses in order to carry out an attack.
Yes, and the IMSI disclosure is usually the first step for the majority of attacks. And it's not the only interesting disclosure that can happen. Let's see another disclosure example.
But who cares about network disclosure and why?
In our study and in our research, the majority of successful attacks utilizes the absence of signaling traffic filtering or the bypassability of SMS on routing.
This means information about the network configuration is necessary for most attacks, which motivates attackers to seek out the addresses and functional roles of the network equipment.
Yeah, exactly. And in isolated cases, attackers having such information can also succeed in bypassing the filtering of specialized security features.
My lovely DOS. For some reason, these have my sympathy. Attacks are generally carried out via request aimed at changing settings in a subscriber's profile.
And it's not all. In some cases, restarting the subscriber device is not enough to establish again the connection. The subscriber has to actually change the network setting manually, or he should go to a different location in order to reconnect to another MSC.
Oh, fraud. I was waiting whether you show me this or not.
Why not? Every network that we tested in 2019 exposed vulnerabilities that could be exploited in financially motivated attacks, targeting both telecom providers or their customer, with money loss, of course.
Fede, enough numbers. Give me an example and show me more.
As you wish.
Can you imagine someone gives you more than you expect?
I can. And let's see this kind of attack. It's named double map attack.
What is it exactly?
Okay, let's start by TCAP message structure. It's composed by several portions. Some of them are mandatory and other just optional. So the intruder can craft a special message with two different operations inside to bypass security measures.
how the equipments react to this.
So imagine as an example, the first operation is insert subscriber data without the identifier of subscriber.
I see.
The second operation is a delete subscriber data using the target subscriber IMSI. The attacker sends this message to the target network. The STP receives the message and send it to the SS7 firewall that inspects the first component only, define that it does not have any identifier inside, so the message is forwarded to the destination node.
Okay. So it means that this method you simply fool STP as well as firewall. Excellent.
Do you want to see it in reality?
Sure. Let's have a demo.
You know, live demos are always challenging, so let's pray for the god of demo to avoid that something unexpected happens. Oh. Okay, let me switch. So this is our telecom attack discovery tool. It's our IDS solution, as we will see even in the next slide, and it receives traffic from and to the operator, the target operator network. So it analyzes all messages flowing through the network.
Okay, let's have a look and focus on the timetable or timeline. You can see there are three major groups of messages. The first one is related to the home routing failure. So it means usually bypassing the home routing feature. Then we have a triplet, three groups of messages, which are our double map activity. And at the end, the third group, you can see the 5 spikes at the end of the timeline. This is related to the SMS interception. By the way, we did this for 5 MSDS. So we chose 5 victim numbers.
Yes, exactly. So the first step for an attack, as said, is to retrieve and to disclose the IMSI of the victim. So in this case, as we can see from this demo, and all numbers are fake ones, of course. And in this case, we recorded this message, a send routing info for SM request, where the attacker just contacts the HLR with the MSISDN.
Yes, this is the typical scenario. And if we are lucky, and in this case we were, we can see the SRI response. And if we have a look at the content of the message, we can find IMSI together with NNN, which is usually global title of the switch. But we need IMSI for this purpose.
Exactly. Then after this, let's go to the double map attack. As you can see, we registered these some events, and the first event of this attack is the inconsistent map components. As we said, for this attack, the message has 2 operations inside. The first one is the operation without the all identifier, and the second one is the anytime interrogation request just used to retrieve the target location. So the network, as you can see from this subsequent attack events, sorry, just respond to our status report request. I'm sorry. But what is really interesting for us is the second response. So here we have the anytime interrogation request that we recorded and that we saw as the second operation in the first event.
Yeah, and very important to say is that our TAD identified this as an illegitimate message. So let's have a look at TCAP reject. Normally, you would expect that the TCAP rejection coming from HLR is the final one. But what has happened in here? We can see that HLR gives us the second chance. It says, I'm sorry, I didn't understand your request, but try it one more time, and correct your previous request, because it kept the original transaction ID together with destination transaction ID.
Exactly. So the second, So the second message is exactly this. So the anytime interrogation request is replied again with same transaction IDs, and the anytime interrogation response.
Sorry, Fede, I will finish this. So we can see the positive response, and if you scroll down a bit, we can find the location area ID together with VLR number. So here we are. We were able to fool HLR by double map activity and get what we really wanted. So right now we have a location and we can positively track the victim.
Very good. But it's not only this, as you anticipated before. Here, now we have this interception of SMS attack.
Yeah, I think this might relate to the two-factor authentication. Am I right?
Not necessarily, but partially you are right. In fact, much more can be done with the interception. If you want, we can see it on TAD again.
Yes, please have a look at TAD one more time and we will see the interception.
Sure.
So now we are referring to these 5 spikes at the end of the timeline. And if you can find the related messages.
Here you are.
Yes, one of them is enough. So what we can see just the first one is the update location request when we are trying to register the given MSISDN to our network, which is then positive because we were able to register this victim's number to our environment. Then you can open the third one with empty forward short message request. And this can be related to some bank message or Twitter message, whatever account you can imagine. You can see that there is a originator number 1234, but it can be, for example, Raiffeisen Bank. And within this message, we are receiving the authorization code or one-time password, whatever you can imagine. And I think this is the end. So we are now taking the control over your account. There is a positive response. And the final message, as you can see, there is a cancel location request. There can be two options. Either the victim can make a call, so it registers again to the network, or if the hacker is pretty polite, he can send this cancel location by himself. Similarly, register the victim back to the previous location or the previous MSC hosting node.
It's a little bit scaring, all of this, Milan. But, you know, which are the impacts on GDPR regulation of all of this?
Yeah, let's have a look on the next slide. I think something like this, it defines, among others, the concept of security by design. Everyone should implement infrastructure taking security in very serious consideration. It was not common to build security by law or design, especially if you were in IoT industry.
But I guess that the time is here. Am I right?
You're right. Beyond,
sorry. Yeah. Please go on.
okay, beyond internal data safeguards, information obtainable via unprotected telecom networks could also constitute a breach.
Yes, and these facts provide an opportunity for bad actors to take advantages. Furthermore, beside the reputational loss in case of fraud, stolen identity, and so on, fines for violations are really huge, up to 20 million of euros or 4% of annual revenues.
Interesting.
Yeah, and here we try to map and we are trying to give you a small list of personal data groups and attacks and information that can be retrieved.
Okay, we are aware of over 20 major personal data groups, which all contain various quantities of individual data types.
Maybe, Milan, do you want to ask for an example on how to exploit GDPR?
Fede, can you give me an example, please?
Sure. Let's describe a potential way for this exploit. So the first stage, the attacker gathers a lot of information, any possible information from the target network.
Yeah, and it simply uses it to creation a big database from which it can operate further.
After this, with all this information, the attacker contacts the target operator of this breach and it asks for a ransom to not expose such stolen data.
Yeah, I can't even imagine the overhead plus the reputation damage which can follow.
And you know, if the operator has no monitoring solution in place, it's not able to verify if this demand and this ransom request is true. So it has no choice, but it has to inform the GDPR regulator.
Yeah, and possibly some fine can come. So you spoke about it.
Exactly.
So is there any solution or better the right approach to minimize the impact of all we have spoken so far?
Yes, here you are. Let's see. Telecom operator, to minimize the impact, should implement a virtuous circular process like the one shown in this slide.
Yeah, you said circle, audit, detect, and respond. By the way, nice circle, very similar to the square.
Yeah, but we tried to make a squared circle with this image, but what is important to underline is that this process is continuous and should be continuous, not done only once.
You're right, because network changes constantly, evolves, new functions come, and the attack surface can also change. So for this reason, this squared cycle is should not be constant. I better say like this.
And our technology, of course, and our solution can help our customers.
I always wanted to know how Legos bricks stick together.
Milan, I think that all you need to know is that if you put them together, they really stick.
Okay, but this slide is not about Lego, I know. It shows that 1 + 1 can be more than 2 if you combine the right products.
You are totally right, yes. Alone, IDS or IPS solution with you never get a comprehensive view of your network. And of course, a significant advantage to combat and to fight against incoming threats. So our firewall combined with our best-in-class intelligence has been recognized as top-tier signaling security technology for the second year in a row.
It's absolutely great. So 1 + 1, it's equal to 3 in this case. But what if also due to coronavirus, I can't invest? Can I get something for free?
You know, for free, yes, you can get our GSMA free of charge compliance check of your SS7 signaling network. Our compliance check is based on GSMA guidelines, and it's composed by up to 75 tests.
Great to know. ENISA estimates, if I read correctly, only 1/3 of EU operators have implemented such security guidelines. Very interesting. But what about if I don't want to touch my running configuration?
You really don't need to do. Everything is done remotely just to check real-life scenarios in the safest possible way.
Okay, and if I need more?
If you need more, you can ask for all other services in our portfolio, like the telecom security audit, where our experts perform deeper checks and also bypass techniques are tried.
I heard about it. It's very useful to dig deeper on my or your signaling network and have a full picture of the security posture. We are running almost out of the time, so let's recap what we have learned from this call. I think, first of all, don't forget that 5G non-standalone. It uses previous generation backend.
Yes, and exactly for this reason, migration to 5G might be very challenging, and SS7 diameter vulnerabilities can be forgotten in a short period, of course.
Yeah, and we all need to push MNOs to turn the negative trend. Security features must be always kept updated and well configured.
Yes, another point is privacy, because privacy is something that should be put in as first, because regulations are going to be always strict and user require it always more.
And finally, a full visibility is the must these days. With, for example, our PT solution called TAD, it's easier than has ever been. And probably we'll pause here.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, and this is all from me and Federico. Now it's your turn. You can ask your question. By the way, it's up to you, Fede.
If you like our webinar, okay, let it know to your friends. If not, just tell us, please. Yeah. Maybe now we already have some questions.
Nice question. Is the webinar being recorded? Yes, it is.
Oh, yes, I don't see this question, Milan. Maybe I was referring to this question. How do you see a SS7 protection effort in the light of decommissioning of 2G and 3G networks? Do we still live with the SS7 forever, or do we deal with only IP networking instead? So, of course, Milan, I will try to answer to this. Of course, the switching to full IP networking is something that will be for a lot of time, because as we saw in GSMA statistics presented in the first slides, the adoption of SS7 network will be still for a long, long time. So we suppose our vision is that we will have to deal with such vulnerabilities for a long time.
Yeah, there is a similar question from Neil, that is there any development on legacy SS7? I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. So because of course it's maintained, and it's an architectural problem. It's not only a matter of some development. So we reached maybe the limit of the protocol itself and of its architecture.
There is one more question from the guy living in Switzerland, that they have a 5G, not sure whether it is non-standalone or standalone, for more 1 year. And the question is, what about 5G security? Does SS7 affect my 5G network? I think the answer is obvious. Yes, it does. As we outline it, even, and Switzerland is usually for many years a little bit isolated country because it doesn't belong to EU. You can see you need a passport. This is similar with 5G. If you are alone with 5G, you are isolated, and you need to communicate with your roaming partners through fallback channels. For usually still you need to keep, and moreover, if I bring my phone number which doesn't support 5G, what you can do? Either I have without signal, or you need to fall back to 4G or 3G. So still worth to consider. What do you think, Fede?
Yeah, exactly. The main issues, even where 5G standalone is fully implemented, you need a fallback channel, a backward compatibility channel exactly for roaming partners and so on. So this is why you have such kind of risk, and you are still exposed to oldest generation, oldest protocol vulnerabilities.
Yeah. One more announcement for the others who are leaving this call. Sure, probably you will receive the email with the link to our record. So don't worry, you will not lose it if you skipped any part of this presentation.
We have one more question, and always from the guy from Switzerland. And while I'm roaming in UK, am I vulnerable? The answer is your home network is vulnerable, so your status will not change based on the country you visit. Not only, it's just because your home operator needs to have oldest channel, the channel with the oldest protocol version open for roaming. You are the vulnerabilities related to the network.
But what about this gentleman roaming in the UK by the operator which does support 5G and has a direct SEPP connectivity to Switzerland? I think this changes a bit.
It changes, but you know, even if both parties have SEPP implemented, yes, that channel is secured, but don't forget that maybe that there are roaming agreements and with other partners, and you could have backward compatibility, or even in such case. So.
Okay. Any other question from the audience? Still, you know our mailboxes, you have our LinkedIn account. At any time you have any further question, do not hesitate and inform us. Let us know. we are more than happy to answer you. Fede,
Yes.
are we going to the conclusion of this call?
Yes, let's go to the conclusion. So thanks everyone to participate this meeting, this webinar, and join us on all our channel you see on the screen. So on our official website or social accounts, or just send us an email to have any further information.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.